Twitter has gutted a good chunk of its workforce, including those who fight misinformation. The social media company uses contractors to track hate and reduce harmful content, but some have been let go. Melissa Engel is one of those contractors. She handled content moderation with a specialization in political misinformation. Melissa, let's talk about that role of misinformation guidance or looking at it. What did it look like from your end? What was the day-to-day like?
Yeah, so the day-to-day is we had several machine learning models which were tuned to different aspects of political misinformation. And we would rank these models against each other, and we would also send a portion of these tweets every day for human review, so they could tell us how the models were performing. And it's important to know that we didn't just detect political misinformation in the United States. We also looked for it around the world. Brazil, the recent Brazilian elections, India, and the UK, the EU. We were truly a global presence.
When you're watching that, are you in the muck of the misinformation, or can some of it be taken care of by the code that is written? In other words, I'm wondering what the human toll is of looking at that much misinformation all the time.
Yeah, that's a really great question, John. So let me explain to you how the models worked. So I was a data scientist. I was not in the day-to-day. I was flagging tweets. I didn't have to really deal with this. I worked very closely with people who would help us set strategy and policy and really understand the culture and the language of the election or the political environment we were monitoring. Then we sent a portion of those tweets for human review. And those human reviewers were really doing the bulk of the work, the lion's share of the work, reading through the tweets individually, either that someone had reported as being misinformation or that we had sent them from our model. So it really took a group effort. It's not a simple process.
Got it. Yeah. And so if it wasn't a simple process, it was complicated and required those various levels. How confident are you, or how worried are you about the nature of misinformation and how it's being handled at Twitter today?
I'm extremely worried. 50% of the full-time workforce was laid off, and almost all of the contractors were laid off. And it was mostly the contractors. I was a data scientist, but most of the contractors were in human review, actually going through the tweets themselves. And you really need both of those things. You need machine learning and you need human review, because there's something like 37 million tweets every hour that are coming through at Twitter. No human workforce could possibly monitor all those. But machine learning is going to miss some things. You need that human review. And I'm very, very concerned with the human review completely gone, what will happen to the platform.
What do you think will happen?
I'll tell you what I think will happen. As the machine learning models are no longer being updated, they will become more and more porous. There's this idea that machine learning it's like, oh, it's this wonderful magical thing and it just learns. That's not really true. You need to continually update your models to look for new data. They only can learn what you've trained them. We've already seen an increase in abuse. There was a study by Tufts University that looked at Twitter pre and post Elon. And internally, we saw that there was a 50% rise day-to-day in abuse claims.
Wow. So if that's the danger of where we are now, Elon Musk has said he wants Twitter to function as a town square. Is that, based on your experience, possible if somehow it went in another direction, that it could operate as a town square in which ideas actually lead to an increase in human understanding?
I think that Twitter at its best is really this empathy machine. It can be. You can learn about new perspectives and cultures that you would never think of before. But if you don't have somebody there to moderate the content, to moderate the free speech, to moderate the hate speech and abuse, it really becomes this toxic place that people don't want to be at. And we can see this across social media platforms. They all have some amount of content moderation, and those that don't, people don't want to be there. They don't want to be subjected to that abuse.
So, Melissa, as a final question, what when you were let go, are you still in touch with, what's your sense of morale there? What was your experience like when you were let go, and what's your sense of morale there now, given how chaotic it's been recently?
Yeah, it's extremely chaotic, and the morale is extremely low. As you know, both the full-time employees and the contractors were not told they were fired. They were simply logged out of the system. And that is sort of indicative of the level of respect the new ownership is giving to the present employees. I'm on a group chat, a private group chat with the employees right now that I used to work with. Morale is extremely low. Everybody's working extremely long hours. They don't know what to do and they don't feel supported.
Melissa Anglin, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.